created by all this absorption. If it's not us and it's in us, it's stuffed into a crack, or it creates a wall, or there's a cavern. Any of these places show the place where we've been struck. If there is a hole, if there is a wall, if there is a crack, there has been some kind of violence. The really good news about all of this is that there are skills that we can learn that allow us over time to sort this out, right? Who is this in me is the question that I offer to you as you're exploring this material further on your journey, your empathic trail. As we are having our empathic path experience, the way other people witness us is no witness at all. And this is another one of the sort of lessons on the empathic trail, the gate of none shall pass, right? So because when we are in purification, when we are healing from being sort of overcrowded, when we are young, we don't know where we end and the world begins. That's the problem. And it's not even truly a problem. It's a problem for us because it has caused us so much suffering. It took us so long to start to understand what was really going on. And then we have to start kind of feeling our way forward with the eyes in our hands, because all we see are a bunch of pieces, and we wonder what shattered us, when in actuality, we're dealing with prisms of consciousness. One of the things I'd like to put up as a question, because I think questions are more valuable than answers sometimes. And the question that I'd like to pose is, is it possible that the narcissist or the toxic lost boy relationship is actually another empath turned inside out, turned upside down in a completely different direction, which is what makes it so easy that it doesn't even have to be conscious for this kind of person, when meeting a raw, bleeding heart empath, which is how most of us are, to tone in on exactly where that core wound is, exactly where those buttons are, and very quickly and very easily and very gutsily just start pushing on them. By pushing these buttons, seeing what happens, and then learning how to systematically create empathic crises and meltdowns, which then open a space for these toxic partners that some of us choose some of the time, right, to point to us and say, you're too much, you're not enough, you're overreacting, what the heck is wrong with you? Why, I didn't do that. That's what you said. No, that's not me. That's you. Don't project on me. Look at you, then it gives them, then taking it further, depending on how far on the narcissistic path we're traveling. And they have this opportunity to start gaslighting us and telling us and treating us like we are smaller, like we are younger than we are, like our experience and our journey has no value, right? Treating us like children in an alternate universe kind of way, because it very well may be the case that one of the key factors that creates an empath is this disruption that happens at a young age as our bodies and nervous systems and our neurons are wiring, creating alternative neurological paths that connect things in a different way. This later often turns into what people call psychic ability, because we are able to connect information in a pattern that a scientist would say, well, you're just ignoring this piece, this piece, this piece. But in actuality, we're detecting a pattern. This is how we track. When we can identify right when it's happening, oh, this is someone in me, and I know who, we can immediately just sort of choose to let it go because it's not ours. But what happens to us empaths when we're in absorption mode, when we're raw, when we're open, when our hearts are bleeding, is that we have, we're all open. We're all open. A lot of empaths, what we do is we put on armor. We put it on physically. We put it on spiritually. There are a lot of somewhat hokey kind of presentations to empaths out there about basically using our imaginations and putting ourselves in bubbles. And while that can be comforting, it can even help short term in certain situations, there are much more permanent, more effective ways for us to refine our empathic path. Because when we put ourselves in a bubble, we're increasing that isolation. When we put ourselves in a bubble and we get an empathic trigger and stuff starts moving, it's got no way to go out from our own auras. So it sort of is a double-edged sword. So there are other things that we can learn to do over time and create protocols for ourselves that allow us to be safer in these situations. One technique I'd love to share with you that I would normally share in the Empaths Empowerment Program is some important questions that we can ask when we're trying to do that work, because that work is extremely important. It is one of the most important pieces of the work empaths have to do to have a more refined, easier, more manageable, more gracious experience of our gifts. And that I always start with, who is that in me, right? And if I can't get a direct answer, now normally a direct answer will come if it's someone around me really close by. This is my boyfriend, this is my neighbor, this is my mom, this is my friend here, this is, right? Because I know how all of these people feel, right? We navigate by feel. Empaths navigate by feel. We may be clairaudient, we may be clairvoyant, we may be able to astral project, we may have claircognizance, we may have an incredible gut instinct, but the way we track when we're looking for something, when we're trying to find something, whether it's a piece of ourselves or a piece of not ourselves, is we go our way by feel. So we check, we scan, we go, whether or not this feeling belongs to me. What is the sensation that's accompanying this feeling? Who is this in me? And if we can't get it with the simple question like, who is this in me? We can ask a series of follow-up questions. And what I like to invite clients to do, and fellow empaths to do, is to use a form of body testing that's very simple, a yes or a no. Or some people use a pendulum, some people use a variety of different things. I like using my body because as an empath, my body is my strongest tool, because empathy is in our bodies as much as we experience it psychically, as much as we experience it emotionally, as much as we experience it mentally. All of that, we couldn't experience it unless it was part of our bodies. And so we want to integrate. We want to sort and integrate. Me or not me. Is this me? Yes or no? No. Okay. Who is this in me? Does a name pop up? First name, that pops up? Probably that. Nothing pops up? Okay. 3 more questions. Is it an ancestor? Yes or no? My mother's side? Yes or no? Father's side? Yes or no? Okay. And whichever one you get, when you get the yes, well, how many generations back? 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, right? So wherever you stop, that's how many generations back. This gives you a location. Think about this as psychic GPS, actually empathic GPS, right? This gives you a location because you're an empath. We can feel. So something vibrates when you get that answer, right? It seems broad and not useful at the moment, but I'll keep going. So now there's a point somewhere in consciousness from which this energy is emanating, right? As empaths, we can then feel our way from where we are in consciousness to this point. One of the things that we start to learn as we advance in our gift is how to use these sensations as navigation instead of allowing them to become this thing that opens sort of the gateway to everything we've spent our whole lives trying to soothe, calm, and hold every time we encounter somebody almost. So then what are these sensations telling me? Where is it? What's its message? What's really happening here? And remembering that we're feeling what's coming off of the other person does not mean it's entering us. The reason it feels like it's entering us is because the sensations we get in our body, which triggers an emotional response. That sets it. We've been taught that our empathic capacities are, that it is our job, our karma, our duty to vamp the pain of others, eat it, digest it, and transmute it is the word I hear often used, and then we're noticing when these others are a part of our regular lives, not really helping them, not really, we're taking their suffering for ourselves, and they need the bounty of their suffering or they're never going to figure out how badly they're hurting themselves and others. Then we process that and they don't improve. So we've gone through all this painstaking healing process they don't even know about. It takes 4 days or something, or a week, or sometimes months, or sometimes a couple hours, but whatever it is, They don't know this investment's been made in them. They have no skin in the game. They're not conscious they're even they think they're playing football on a baseball field. So, so we end up harming ourselves in taking these actions with the best of intentions. And we've been told that this is proper and appropriate. This is actually an extended myth out of womanhood, okay? Women are expected to provide emotional labor, never to expect appreciation, to provide it to anyone who asks for it whenever they want it without discernment, to put their needs aside at all times on behalf of other people's needs, wants, and desires, to throw away all of our own creative energy that we could be using to pursue our passions, our joys, our happiness, to make our lives what we want them to be, but we give it away. We're dehumanized for it. So if you can see that there's sort of this overlap between this culturally normative but spiritually destructive paradigm in womanhood that has been extended through other movements into the empath circle, encouraging martyrdom, encouraging us to just kind of grin and bear it. It's our karma. We're supposed to heal everybody else. We ourselves are not important enough to matter to heal. Who's got room in yourself for you when you're an empath? And I challenge that. I challenge that entire paradigm. Our emotional labor is valuable. As women and as people, and especially as empaths, because we happen to be exceptionally good at it. We are the safest places on earth for a world full of suffering people. Right? And, and we have been taught to be energetic garbage cans. And that is a great palace lie. And I challenge that. I see so much power, so much opportunity, such a rich and wild, landscape that really reveals to us the intelligence, magnitude, importance, and power of what we are, not just collectively, but individually, so that we can understand where our value is lying, where our work is lying, where our passion is lying, where our aptitude lies. And for empaths, our aptitude is exceptional feeling, coupled with being able to put information together that other people would miss entirely. So sometimes it can help us empaths to create a structure around our empathy, our emotional labors, our emotional service. And there are a lot of ways to do that. And this all comes down to a type of boundary setting. But when we integrate that boundary setting into our passions, our purpose, our putting that first, our suffering is not to be dismissed as nothing. Our suffering is not to be considered an, oh, well, everybody suffers. But we are going to take our suffering and we are going to use that to heal. We are not transmuting. We are alchemizing. It is no wonder empaths struggle with self-love and confidence. It is because we are ghosts in this world. Most of us experience ourselves that way. We are experiencing ourselves as ghostly in this world because nobody can see us. Which for us, it means nobody can feel us, right? It's supposed to be an adventure. We spent all these years absorbing, getting grayer and getting tireder and getting heavier, right? And now is the turning of the tide for empaths. This is where I truly feel a great opportunity collectively for all of us. Any individual empath who wants to take advantage of it is going to see really big strides in movement toward understanding our gift as a gift through experiencing it. There's nothing to fix here. There is nothing broken about us as empaths. If we have a character flaw involved in this, it is overgiving. It is not all of the things we have been told about us that are too much or not enough. All of that is nonsense. When we really start to understand fully the enormity of the healing power that we carry, that we don't have to become sacrificial lambs to emanate, that is when the whole paradigm gets flipped on its head. That is when we start to understand how to actualize what we are wanting to move toward to get the greatest support for what we identify as our passion and purpose in life. We want to separate that noise from our inner lives, because it is not us. then we can deal with what is going on in us personally, and start doing the work that allows that to be broken down into something that we can use in the alchemy of re-empowering ourselves. And I think we should all start keeping lists called gorgeous things about my empathy, because this is truly one of the most beautiful things, is how we are able to come into contact with something that is already deep inside us, fully developed, but dormant, asleep, a book covered in dust we didn't even know was there, up in the attic underneath, the winter clothes from our childhoods, which we call the contextual fields, right? These are fields of information, fields of knowledge, fields of interaction and integration with other aspects we can call of ourselves. It's not only you having this experience, I want you to know that. This is all crashing together. What we know to be our true sense of, our true aptitude, our true talents, our true passions, our true heart songs, that the things we must do so that by the end of the long day of our lives, we know we did this thing that we had to do. Not had to do because it would, because there was danger. Not had to do because there was some oppressive, force around us that made us do it. Have to do it because that is the one thing above all the other things we think we must do that would give us peace. There's still those moments where it stops you in your tracks. And one of the things I want to say about that for us empaths is we get stopped in our tracks. Sometimes we get really upset because we get all excited. We receive a knowing. We're ready to take action. We're passionate and juicy and excited, and we have so much to give, and we know that it's needed. We know that we're good at it, maybe even great at it. We know that what we have to offer, we must give, or we'll explode because it'll just keep growing in us. More in your body means more integrated. It means easier access. It means new ingredients for alchemy. It means the actualization and manifestation of form. And so what you're really needing is to be making more room for these fields to become more deeply integrated as you're stepping in to a phase of your life that's opening. You have a whole phase of your life opening here that's all about the actualization, right? And then we have the vertical field, the vertical access, and this is where we sort of reach up into these higher celestial resources, these records in us, these little marks in us where something had been holy once, and remains thusly. And we start to pull that in, we start to pull that down, and it becomes accessible to us because we can start to feel our way there. What happens is that when we get too overfull, we can't feel. We're feeling everything. It's like being in a swarm of locusts, and being unable to see the difference between locust 1 and locust 1000, and not even having any relationships with the locusts. So, we want to clear the field of locusts so we can see clearly.